Join us for Unwavering Strength with Anya Sophia Mann. Listen with us as we laugh, cry, feel, heal, and be inspired with the heartfelt truth of real life situations of courage to confidence. Be with us on Unwavering Strength with Anya Sophia Mann. It's real here.
Hello and welcome to everyone who's listening for the launch of the weekly segment called Unwavering Strength. It is a part of Quantum Alchemy Radio, and it is a segment that we're introducing today. It will be every week, every Wednesday, 10:30 to 11:30 Mountain Standard Time, and this is the place where we listen to real live people in real life situations that have been of extraordinary measure, calling up in them an unwavering strength that actually, as you listen during our share, during the interview, you will listen as I go deeply, watching for the moment, so to speak, where the person has tapped into a moment of courage, of which when we move through our journey, there are many moments of courage that actually will lead us to a confidence that we carry forward into the world. And often that confidence comes from the recognition that there is something. We don't have a label for it in this moment. There's something inside that rises up all of our challenges and taps us into an unwavering strength. And that's what we're going to hear today as we listen so beautifully to a very intimate story of life in the world of Judy O'Beirn that spans over about 4 years, where she had 5 major losses in the most intimate, close circle of people closest to her in her life, one after the other after the other. So we'll be listening to that story. And folks, I invite you also to be reminded that it's the stories in our life that show us who we really are in hindsight. Often not when we're actually going through it, but in hindsight when we do a look-see over our shoulder, like looking in the rearview mirror for a moment, we see, oh, holy moly, where did that strength come from? I invite you to consider that strength is already there, and that life circumstances, whether they show up as tragedies or challenges, are tapping you in to a strength that is unwavering inside of you. And as we hear at the end of Judy's story, you'll hear her speak as to what it's like to really tap into the truth of that strength and where her greatest challenge was. That comes more at the end of the story. So, also I just want to mention, whether you're listening to the archives when they get posted or you're listening live on the radio, be sure and click on the links for Facebook and Twitter, all of that. Share it with your friends. Call into the radio show. You can listen to it live, and the number for that is 818-495-6930. Again, that's 818-495-6930. You can listen to it live from anywhere, or you can also listen to it from the web. So again, welcome everyone to launching Unwavering Strength Radio. Unwavering Strength is us. And you will come to see that, folks, as we listen weekly to the amazing life stories that people who have a desire to share their story, to move all of us into finding a strength, that unwavering strength within us, and also to be motivated and inspired by these stories. So, on that note, we're going to move right into, I've done this interview with Judy. It's recorded prior to this actual live show, and we do that because of time differences. Judy is in Ontario, Canada. And so, you ready? I'm certainly ready. And don't hesitate if you want to send an email and make some comments about what the show has done for you and moved in you. Please feel free to do that. Again, my name is Anya Sophia Mann. I am the host for Unwavering Strength Radio, and you can reach me at AnyaSophiaMann.com. You can access the show from the website and email me if you want to, you yourself, be considered for sharing your story on the show. So, on that, let's move right in to listening to this extraordinary, intimate sharing from Judy O'Beirn. And again, thank you, listeners, for listening. Share the radio show with those that you feel would benefit by listening to real life stories from real people. I'll see you next time. Here we go.
Welcome, listeners. My name is Anya Sophia Mann. I'm very happy, very excited for our first guest on Unwavering Strength Radio is Judy O'Beirn, the visionary behind the soon-to-be published books, I say plural because we know they're going to go on and on and on. Unwavering Strength is the name of the book, and what is it? It's about stories that all of us have lived through, been through, want to share with each other, and we're looking for the courage to confidence. That's what I'll be listening for as I listen to Judy over the next 25 minutes. I'm listening for where was the courage and how did it move to the confidence, because in the end, confidence really is the reward from having had the courage to do or be with something. And Judy, pass is an option that is absolutely welcome here. Pass is an option. If, being that I am a visionary, intuitive coach and consultant, it's in my nature to be listening on a multidimensional level. If a moment presents where it's what I would call a coachable moment, I will ask you, I will say to you, Judy, this is a coachable moment. May I come in and shift a perspective on this? Pass is always an option. So just know that I'll be listening for that with you and the other guests that we have. So welcome, Judy O'Beirn from Canada. I guess the visionary behind and the co-author, because you will have many other co-authors in your books of Unwavering Strength. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. You're doing this.
So this is the show, listeners, where we listen to the story behind Judy's story, where it kind of moved her into a vision, mission, and a purpose to get out there with this book, which will become workshops and speaking and moving people internationally. But today, we're going to have the opportunity to listen to Judy's story behind the story that she had to move through to get where she is. So if you will, and I know it must be intimate, very intimate, as will be for all the listeners who come forward. And listeners, do be in touch with Anya at Anya Sophia Mann if you too want to be considered to be someone who's interviewed on the show and share your story. So Judy, where would you want to begin with what got you where you are right now in the flowering and the unfolding of the vision of the book Unwavering Strength, which is now a radio show?
I think we'll start with the sunny beach in Hawaii. That's the best.
Yay!
I got this great big smile on my face as I see the picture again. And I'm only talking that it was 6.5 years ago that I was there on a beach with my soon-to-be husband and my 2 daughters and son-in-law and 2 of his sisters and her son, and it was absolutely gorgeous. So our life begins there as a blended family.
Oh, okay.
So we left there, and I'll do my best to try and go through this a little bit quickly because 6 years of one's life is can't be talked about in too much detail without taking up hours of your time. So we came home after being there. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was by far the best thing we had done and so far in our life. And my mom wasn't able to go. My mom lived in my basement with me, with Jerry and I, and we came home and she was there. We had a dog, life was perfect. We come home, we're thinking, this is great, bring our blended families together. We're now married. And within a very, very short time, I'd say 4 months, my mom gets word that, in fact, I drove her to the doctors because we had seen her declining health. But, we had other things we were concentrating on, not to ignore her, but she was back and forth to the doctors. We find out that she's got cancer. And it's terminal cancer, and she had up to a year to live. So we then switched from what was new and how exciting things were to now we have to become caregivers. There's only, she lives with us. She's in an apartment in my house. How can we go to work and manage to get her the care? And thank goodness there's a lot of care for people to be taken care of in their own home. Mm. And I'll fast forward now. Someone had to be there in the house 24/7, which was fine. That was not an issue for us. We managed to find enough people and help and family. Mm-hmm. And we were in a position that allowed us a lot of freedom. My job I had been at for 15 years, so it was perfect. They gave me time off. I went on a, sort of a partial leave. And she ended up, ultimately she had a heart attack and ended up in the hospital. And we had to spend 8.5 weeks with her in the hospital, including our first anniversary. And that was the first time we had to find unwavering strength to get us through it. Mm-hmm. And, of course, after she passes away, we had the unpleasant part of, taking care of her things. And so the next year comes and you find the strength in yourself to carry on, and only to have my employer come to me and walk me out the door. And it was just like, oh my goodness, why? You always question things. You always go, why now? Why couldn't, it's not great, but why couldn't this happen a year ago so I could have been home with her? And out of that came Hasmark Services. Right. So it wasn't all bad, and it was, maybe this is the right thing, because now I have to learn to cope with being home alone and drawing in on yourself to find your internal strength to pull through and to make a company, even though you're going through this all in the background and not letting anyone know, because it's a new concept, having a new business, that you're the front person. Mm-hmm. So we incorporated a company, and no sooner had we turned around, and my dog comes back from the groomer one day, and he's like, we actually called the groomer and said, did you drug him? He doesn't seem to be okay, he's having trouble walking. She said, no chance I'd ever drug a dog. Mm-hmm. And the next day we took him to the vet, only to be told, and I think it was the biggest shock in our life, that our dog had cancer. Mm-hmm. And that was all through him, and that it was a matter of time. Mm-hmm. And 1 month to the day after losing my job, we had him put to sleep so that he didn't have to suffer through cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, okay, fine, we'll deal with these significant changes in our life and we'll move forward. So fast forward to, 8-10 months into the future, and we get a call in the middle of the night, and it's Jerry's sister, my husband's sister, and she says his other sister has had a heart attack. So can we help round up her kids and get down to the hospital? So we head to the hospital, and they walk out and they tell us she's had a heart attack. It was a significant one, but there's more news.
Mm-hmm.
She has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And a week later, she passed away from cancer. So we try to deal with the family, all the things we have to do for that. While this is going on, Jerry's other sister starts to have problems. So we start getting her, we're checking in with her all the time. We've spent a lot of time with his family. We're really, really close to them. So get her to doctors, get her in for testing.
It sounds like a cluster of events, Judy, that was absolutely moving you almost into a different neighborhood or a different dimension or a different floor in the condo. You're now moving up to the 25th floor, and you liked the third floor. It's like a whole cluster, a soul cluster of events came in.
Oh, yeah.
It's extraordinary to hear this, and there's no way I can even imagine what it took other than the obvious, which is unwavering strength.
Yeah, exactly. And what was really difficult is you try to walk into everything, like you try to have a positive attitude in your life about, when you go into the doctors, it's going to be you aren't taking the right vitamins, or maybe your cholesterols, or, even my second sister-in-law, Jerry's other sister, we thought, well, she's had a heart problem. Mm-hmm. It would be awful if she had to have another bypass, but people survive, and the rate of survival is very high. So, it's pretty sad when you sit there and you're hoping that what's wrong is a significant milestone for somebody else, where I can only hope that that's what it is for us.
Mm-hmm.
So as the story continued, she ended up going into the hospital for kidney stone.
Mm-hmm.
Phew, good.
Mm-hmm.
Then it ends up being, it's her heart. So let's start getting her into cardiologists and heart specialists. And phew, it wasn't that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. It's like, oh no, because she's not getting better. She's getting worse, to the point that she's not even functioning anymore. She is so afraid of going into doctors' offices and hospitals that she's absolutely paralyzed on the couch in her house. I mean, I'm not going to go into too many details, but this woman couldn't do anything for herself, who only 6 months ago lived alone.
Mm-hmm.
So we started the, 24-hour someone being there with her, because remember, she's the single lady.
Right.
And we go behind her back and call the doctors and get an emergency meeting with them for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget walking in, like I'm envisioning walking into that doctor's office and being told she has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't just have cancer, she has terminal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And unless they get her into the hospital right now, her heart will be crushed, because the pressure, the fluid around her heart was killing her. So, okay, fine, now we get her into, now it just becomes a matter of comforting her life and finding the strength to go down there, being there for her, talking to her, caring for her when we need to, getting her to doctor's appointments.
Mm-hmm.
So we decide after a few months we're going to go on vacation. We need to get away just to give us a break through it so that we can find the strength to get back at it again. And so we go away. Jerry and I go to Florida, come back. we're outside because of course it had snowed. It's February. And Jerry has a heart attack. Keep in mind, I think the day that I had to call his family, you can hear it in my voice.
Yeah. So, in a moment like this, and I would say this to the listeners, this is where we take a moment. We just simply take a moment and we just allow ourselves to bring our attention to the breathing that is happening. There's something very comforting hi, Bailey. There is something very comforting when we go to our breathing to kind of center us back in. This story is, it's enormous. It's enormous in that it keeps extending out, and extending out. And I know you're not alone in this, and that there are other listeners who can relate with this. And frankly, Judy, it's beyond my imagination. I've not ever experienced anything like this. I'm curious about one thing, and that is, how'd you do it, Judy? Like, seriously, I mean this from this moment. Can we just look in your rearview mirror while you're, going forward with your life and see what comes in this moment? How did you do it?
I'm actually shaking my head to say I have no idea. I don't think I felt. I really don't think I felt. I had a job to do, and it was more important that I focused on, and I think it's something to learn to live, for others to understand that. You have to, when you're in that circumstances and you do that, I think it's worse for yourself. You forget to take care of you. And all I did was spend all my time concentrating on the people who were around me. How was the family doing? How were her kids doing? How was her brother doing? That kind of thing. And then ultimately when Jerry had the heart attack, it was, as I said, the worst part of that day wasn't just the heart attack, because they reacted very, very fast, but it was the telling to the family. So I forgot to sit there and think about me. Yes. I felt things, and I felt them deeply, but I was in such a cycle of this just can't be happening, that I completely did not take care of myself. So as I mentioned, Jerry had the heart attack, and I had to call his sister, and of course his sister had to get someone, and it broke my heart because I knew she was very, very dependent on Jerry and myself to take care of her. We had talked, honestly, for years about what kind of service does she want? What does she want done with her stuff? What does she want done with her place? What does she want done? So to know that suddenly she's on the door of death, and here she is coming to a hospital with her brother in it from having a heart attack. And I'm thinking she's looking at him as her strength, and now he's looking at her, and I'm like, it's just like you said, what do you do in this case? And it's like, I don't know. I guess at that point, I just sort of lifted my shoulders and looked at them and thought, I'm here. And that I'll get you guys through this whatever way I know how. And it's by instinct, by purpose, by whatever, drives you.
Right.
So the next part of that, because there is still more, trust me, is that a few weeks later, Jerry has to go to the doctors, and I said to him, I'll drive you over there. He still doesn't. It's within the month after the heart attack. You have to go back to your doctors and have your doctor give you the go back to work and all that other stuff. And so I drove him over there, and I waited in the car, not expecting much news, of course, other than go back to work because he's doing well.
Right.
And he walks into the vehicle, sits down, and I thought, and my heart sunk. And I said, what? He said, they found a spot on my lung. I'm going,
yeah.
It can't be.
Right. Yeah. Take a nice deep breath, Judy. I say that for the listeners as well. Let's all of us just take a deep breath. And just, right here, right now, we're paying attention to our breath as we're listening to Judy. I'm going to say this, Judy, and I know you can hear this, the richness, the depth of one person's life journey. And right now, Judy is all of us. We all are moving through life experiences and having the honor to listen to someone share just the outline of their story. We can only imagine the rest, but it gives us strength in knowing that there is something called in each of us unwavering strength. Each of us who may feel like they're left behind or feel so alone in all of it, there's something underneath it all that keeps you moving even when you can't move. Something's moving. It's called your breath. And just as a little idea in the moment, start now to learn to be able to access your breath. You don't have to change the breathing. Just put your attention on it as a reminder that there is something moving through you that has a higher purpose to all of this, and we may never know it. But breath, while alive, breath in itself carries an unwavering strength. So where are you now, Judy? Are you connected to your breath in this moment?
I need to be so connected to my breath.
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful. I can hear the fullness of you right now. There you are. Excellent. Great. So this is wow. It's so expanded in its singularity. I mean, it's about, love and loss, and in this case, cancer, and it's about a whole cluster, family and friend type cluster that's being moved out around you. It's fascinating to hear this, Judy. So on that note, Judy, I'm going to ask and pass as an option, are you willing, can we go a little bit over? Can we go about 15 minutes over? I don't want to leave the listeners hanging. I'm very willing to run this first show over. Would you be willing to do that?
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great, because I this is very rich. So here it comes again, that piercing right through the center of, if there's any fragment left of a shattered heart, here it comes right through again. This is extraordinary, Judy. So I always want to be checking in. So where were you in all of this? Where were you? Were you losing yourself? Were you finding more of yourself? I mean, he's in the car and he tells you what? Wow.
Great question. And what tells me a lot just in itself, and I'm sure you, of all people and the listeners also, is that when I can't answer it quickly, it must mean I never did go there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's valuable and invaluable for people to realize that we do need to check in with ourselves, because what ends up happening is you just force it down. You try to put it into this, box type of thing, and you can't. You need to understand what this is, what this means. And I know at that time it wasn't about me. I don't remember giving it one thought except now I've got to find a course of action. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm. I
need to put a plan in place so that he doesn't become fifth one in my family.
Over what period of time, Judy?
Within 4 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want him to be the fifth one to be, to succumb to well, Marlene hadn't died. There was, at this point, she's dying.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he would be the fifth person in the cycle. And I just know that I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to take that news and change it, change the outcome.
Right.
And it's, when I sit back, it's something that just comes to realization now, is that I realized I couldn't change the outcome of what was destined. This path was put in front of me, and this course was made for me, and it was going to happen, and it would take a bigger force than me to change it. So I don't spend time on the, well, what if and why not, and what about doing something different? It is what it is. We did the best we could with what, the diagnosis we were given and the course we were given. So.
Right. So I've heard this expression before, and I'm curious, given your rich experience, I have heard that one dies, Judy, 1,000 deaths before they really start to truly live. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely believe that's exactly it. You do die a lot of deaths, for sure. Absolutely, yes. And I know from watching more deaths than I ever want to imagine again in my life, or be part of again in my life, I watched them die different deaths too. A lot of them. They die in different ways, So yes, definitely.
So for those who are perhaps have already gone through, but in this moment, for this conversation, in this part of it, for those who are in it, what comes in the moment, Judy, to share for those who are right in it, in the process of one of those 1,000 deaths that you die before you really, really, really start living, only they don't realize it's their own death of the ego, death of whatever, and they're dealing with someone else's death. Does anything come in the moment? Breathe.
Yeah, breathe. For sure. That is it. People haven't told me that enough yet. I know they haven't, because it's definitely breathe, for sure. But I also think that I mentioned to you, and you bring it, you brought it out, is that we don't look at ourselves. We don't take care of us. We think it's all about the other person, and then I'll tell you, I was the biggest one on the planet who would have said, or virtually, I never would hit somebody, but virtually punch somebody when they say, good will come out of this. I used to think, oh, you have no idea the anger that brings up. And yet I'm sitting here today saying that there is really good that will come. It isn't just a saying. People aren't telling you it just for the sake of saying words, because there's a lot of people who will speak words to you, lots. That is one of the truest things I see and now believe. I'm in this point of my journey.
So what I'm hearing, Judy, just to expound a little bit for the listeners, is that even though you can't hear it at the time when you're in the middle of it and someone says good will come out of this, and you just shake your head and pull a few more strands out of your head, and they mean all well and good in what they're saying.
They do.
What you're saying is that you are a living example of that good will come out of it. So would one have hope or trust or faith in that? You tell us a little bit about where on the spectrum is that? Hope, trust, faith in that statement, good will come.
They should have it all, because it does come, because, you do, I understand that you do have to pull, the inner strength, the unwavering strength, but the only way, because there's a time, you called it a dark time, and trust me, it was really, really dark. Mm-hmm. But you need to repurpose yourself. That's why I say this whole thing is when we stop and think about it, it's just us. Mm-hmm. It's someone, I call it someone, that's not the right thing, but our journey is predetermined for us long before we're alive, and there is a purpose, there is a reason. Believe it, trust it, know it, hope for it, because when it happens, I can't imagine a better there is nothing in my life to date that feels better, has ever felt better than it does right now.
Ooh, this is big. Say more. This is huge.
It is. It's the moment that we, the moment that I decided that I would go forward, and my family came together, the ones that were left after my husband passed away, when they came together and they said, they all agreed they wanted to be part of the book. They wanted to be part of a charitable, event. It was just like, at first it's like, I'm in grief, I'm not seeing it well. Then I'm thinking it's the most unselfish thing you can do for someone else. Mm. And there's no greater feeling in the world than that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing.
Uh-huh. And what I what I want to point out to the listeners right now is that Judy said, when I decided I wanted to go forward. And so on that note, Judy, I'm going to come in for the listeners, because I heard you clearly and I heard you deeply. When I decided I want to go forward, I hear the other side of that, which is I want to die. So would you speak to the listeners if they're in that place? I want to die. Yeah.
Trust me, after losing, I sat there 5 years, 6 years ago, and I've got my mom, and I've got my home, and I've got my best friend Jerry's sister Marlene. I've got, all our families together. There's Christmases and Thanksgiving, and there's so much fun. Mm-hmm. I loved planning families get-togethers. Mm-hmm. I got this whole other, and then all of a sudden, in a short, very, very short amount of time, every single one of them is gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there, and there isn't. We talked about lonely and no one around you, and I thought, what am I here for? I don't want to be here.
Right.
I have nothing to do.
Right.
Who cares? And you're sitting there, and you understand that it'll hurt others to lose you, but it's like, but I have no reason to be alive.
Right.
And you have to dig deeper, but it's not. It becomes easy, mm-hmm. And I mean easy. I'm not using that word freely. It becomes easy when you know it's the right place for you to go, the right journey for you to take.
Correct. I understand. And so when after all the events, are settled, and the people have gone on, the people have died, and let's just say you're left, and listeners, mm-hmm. I'm very aware that this is going out widely to over 5,000 people. Even when you alive, Judy, in this case, even
right.
when people come to visit and you have tea and you're talking and then it's time for them to go, there's an aspect that wants to, can I go with you? Because all that's left is you.
Yeah.
And so Judy, I'm wondering, will you help us out in hindsight, now that you have the master's degree in hindsight? Could there be some kind of a wake-up call to you in all of the losses, where one day as you close the door and say, hey, I want to go too, I want to go with you, because you don't want to be with yourself, is all of this loss a wake-up call that you had lost yourself?
Wow, great question. I love it. I can sit here today and say, now I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it as truly as I'm learning it, and that's why I like to say I'm actually in a blossoming phase.
Yes.
Because I love how every day you learn a little bit more and you feel it a little more.
Mm-hmm. 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 And so in that degree of loss, in that cluster around you, 5 major losses in a 2-year period or 4-year period of time, major losses, close people that you were identified with around you, maybe even at some points over-identified with, that you couldn't realize in the time. In the movie, on the screen of our life, the movie that's unfolding in this game that we're playing called life as a soul, we're moving through the game board. What if all of it was there for Judy to have nothing left but the single most important person in her life that she was missing?
That's me.
Right. I'm just, here in the moment with you, and this is what I'm feeling in the moment. And when I think of me as an acronym, using the initial, letters ME, and giving them meaning of my essence, my essence, me is what was missing, and everything around you, because this is such a cluster in such a short amount of time that
yes.
I'm hearing loudly.
Yes.
Judy, we're going to leave so that you get to have you, so you get to realize there is a you, and you will, on a soul level, come to discover an aspect of you that is more glorious in connection to the bigger picture and the whole than you could have realized in the small cluster. Any of this make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Makes absolutely perfect sense.
Mm.
I mean, I remember as I was in the depths of the grief, and I remembered how alone you feel and how you don't feel like, there's anybody. And the problem is that just what you're saying is I've never been alone with me, and I never knew who me was or what I'm capable of. And I have a really hard time, and I really appreciate you reminding me that I said this, is I am going forward and I am doing this because my whole entire life was we.
Yes.
Because I told you I took my mom and dad with me to my home, and that's where I lived with my kids growing up with my parents. So it was always all about us. Mm-hmm. I don't doubt that this was. I wish they could have found a different way, mind you, but I get it that this was, because I actually physically had to leave that was the other thing I had to do. I had to leave my home and go somewhere else and create another home so I could find me.
Right, absolutely. And so strongly, listeners, I know, I can feel that you're hearing in Judy, I am. I'm hearing that so strongly in you, Judy, with such a connection, even if it's only momentary. In this moment, I'm hearing, I am, I exist. I exist. Can you feel it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. The breath is coming back.
Exactly. Exactly. And Wow. If we were losing ourselves in other people, what an opportunity for the wake-up call to claim you again. Fascinating. So if you will, from this point, will you kind of bring the pieces together as to, Jerry, and then Marlene, and how that all came about? Because we're still hanging on the story of, okay, we know, Jerry's been diagnosed, or he's just being diagnosed now.
Yeah, we had got word that he had the spot, and where we went to next was the decision between him just having a heart attack and how rapidly they would treat the cancer. So they decided that they would run the test to find out exactly where it was. And trust me, I won't go into the part of Ontario and all the... Mm-hmm. So anyways, he went through treatment. He began his chemo and radiation. We used to leave. This is the part, too, that I drew strength from his strength. We would leave his chemo or radiation treatment and race down to go visit and sit with his sister to keep her company. Because, again, she's dying while he's going through his treatment to save his life. When, in that summer, we literally were in a cycle on a calendar of going, someone had to be with his sister 24/7, so we were on the calendar to stay at her place some nights. And the last night, her last night, we actually left his treatment, went to stay with her. She passed away in the middle of that night, and we drove that morning after making arrangements back to the hospital for his treatment. And that fall, after we did the operation, after more radiation and chemo, it came back. They thought they had caught most of it, but it had come back. And at that point, that fall, we found out that he was terminal himself. So we had spent the summer saying, thank God for the heart attack. It probably saved his life. And in the end, it didn't. It unfortunately just brought it to us sooner. So what I haven't mentioned yet is through this time, my daughter has got her best friend going through cancer treatments. And
so this is one of those moments, I want to remind the listeners as they're listening, this is one of those moments where, again, we just pay attention to our breath. The breath has something very settling to it, and it brings us back to our center. We don't even have to change the breathing. It will happen naturally. Just focus on the breath. So your daughter's best friend, Judy.
Yeah, my daughter's best friend is trying to figure out whether she's coming with me for Jerry's treatment or whether she's going to her friends or friends in and out of operations and treatment. And we're trying to mirror the two so that we can see what kind of treatment she's getting that might help him, even though they're different cancers. And I guess the next thing is a little less than 2 years ago, Jerry did pass away from cancer, and he was home while we went through it. And you mentioned through the dog and through the time that, through his just before his cancer diagnosis, we had gotten a dog, and to watch a dog go through even the grieving was phenomenal to watch him, and how attached that dog is to me now is just absolutely amazing. And 3 months after Jerry passed away, my daughter's friend passed away.
Wow.
I just remember being there in the house, and I was alone, and I would be grieving, and my daughter would come and say, well, you can't stay alone. And it's like, but I can't go there. I have to, by going to your friend's house, I actually have to face what's about to happen to her. And I wasn't in any position to be there for that. So.
Right. I very much hear your pain, and I very much am witnessing, Judy, your movement through the pain. I'm aware of the paralysis is not there, and we know, of course, paralysis is a part of it, where you feel like you just can't move and you don't want to move. But I'm hearing you move. I'm hearing, yes, you visit, and yes, there's emotion and feeling, but I'm hearing a strength, an unwavering strength of movement that's moving you through. So, as we move into the final moments here of being together, what did you have the courage to do or be, and what can you now in confidence say that you have found about you? So what did you have the courage to be with? What was happening that you had courage? And then what's the confidence that came out of that courage through this 5-year journey? The courage to what?
I think I understand what where you're going with this, and that's the fact that, out of this came, as it was drawing to an end for my husband and my daughter's friend, is that's when Unwavering Strength came to being. And that's where I knew I had to find another purpose. I had to find something that was really, really strongly heartfelt and that would drive me in a different direction, and a direction to help others. Because I don't ever want anyone else to feel as alone as that journey does feel. So Unwavering Strength came to being, and the book and the intention of doing workshops and, charity events and all those wonderful, great things.
What I'm hearing in that is, as the journey through courage and the reward being confidence, again, I am hearing the I am. The confidence in I am. I'm going to offer this because I am. Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, the funny part is I understand completely, because I always like to go to the us and we. But if I am not at the point of I am, I need that confidence, which I love that expression. I need the confidence to be able to stand proudly and say, I am.
Yes.
I will.
Yes.
I do.
Yes. Yes.
And say,
yes.
us, all the rest of it. All of that will be an outlet of it.
Yes.
But I must say, and I must feel, I am.
Yes.
So I can become a we or an us again.
Yes. I have. The hair is standing on my arms, the back of my neck. I am beautiful. I'm hearing you touch a place in you that was hiding in the shadows of a whole lot going on in your life. And right there you are. I am. That's beautiful. Judy, thank you so much for being so intimate with yourself, most importantly, and Intimacy is into me see. Intimacy, into me see. And you let us see you in the intimacy of sharing this story. And thank you so much. And folks, if you feel it's a resonance for you, do not hesitate to connect with Judy. The details will be on the website, AnyaSophiaMann.com. You can go to Quantum Alchemy Radio. You'll get all the details of how to connect with Judy if you didn't catch them before. Judy, I am moved by your courage. I am moved by the confidence I feel in the am of you. Thank you, Judy. Be well. Thank you for listening to the Quantum Alchemy Radio Show. Join us again every Wednesday as hosts, guests, and callers create a new, different, and timely show. We invite you to be the shift that wants to happen in the world.